Moving on, we're going to start to talk about equations, and today we're just going to focus on solving equations by adding and subtracting. This should be reviewed, so I'm going to go through this rather quickly, and if you have further questions, you should ask a lot during class. As always, take notes as you're going along, put questions off to the side of any issues that you may be having. The first thing we want to talk about is the addition property for equalities. What it says is that if you have two things that are equal, notice how those are on opposite sides of the equal sign, and you add the same amount to both sides, they're still equal. Same thing holds true for subtraction. If you start out with two things that are equal, notice how they're on opposite sides of the equal sign, and you subtract the same amount from both sides, they're still equal. That's what we're going to do when we solve each of these equations today. I'm really big, especially as we get into these harder equations, to make sure that you are drawing your line down your equal sign so we separate that left and the right hand side of the equation. What we're always trying to do when we get rid of addition and subtraction is create 0. So how can I create 0 when I have a positive 5? Well, I would put a negative 5 on both sides. That creates 0, and I get A is equal to whatever 4 minus 5 is, or 4 and negative 5. You have $4, you owe somebody 5, so you still owe them 1. You can always check your solution by plugging that back in. When we plug that back in, we get negative 1 plus 5, and yes, for sure it is a positive 4. I will not be checking every solution as I work through these problems today. On this next problem, again, drawing my line down the equals, I'm trying to create a 0 here, so I will put a negative 5.3 on both sides, a negative 5.3 on both sides. This creates 0, so I get C is equal to, they're both negatives, so I'm owing somebody more money, so I'm going to be adding them together. I owe somebody $15. Draw my line down my equal sign. This time things are kind of moved around, but I'm working on the side that has the variable. Just like I was on the prior problem, I was working on the side that has the variable. This one happens to be on the right-hand side. We're trying to get rid of a 6.2. We're trying to create a 0, so we're going to put a negative 6.2 on both sides. So it says that, you had $10.70. You spent $6.20. What do you have left? You have $4.50. In my next problem, again, always drawing that line down the equal sign. I know that's not a big deal right now for some of you because you've got basic equations, but we're just getting that habit. It will help us later. We're trying to get rid of a positive 8. The way we're going to get rid of a positive 8 is with a negative 8. And what I'm doing is I'm balancing out each side. I'm subtracting or putting a negative 8 on both sides. I have $2. I owe somebody 8. I'm still going to owe them 6 more. My next example here, I am trying to get rid of a negative 38. The way I'm going to get rid of a negative 38 is by adding 38 to both sides. This creates the 0, and this says I owe somebody $20. I have 38, so I'll still have 18 after I pay them back. My next equation, like I said, I'm going very quickly through these. You can always pause and go back and re-listen to problems. But this should be a review for you. You're trying to create 0, so you're going to get rid of the 5/2 by putting a negative 5/2 on both sides. You get x is equal to 1/2 and negative 5/2. You already have a common denominator, so you're really just doing 1 minus 5/2. Keep your denominator of 2. 1 minus 5 is negative 4, and then we could simplify that to just be a negative 2. Problem number 7. I'm trying to get rid of a negative 5 or a minus 5. I'm trying to create 0, and the way I do that is by adding 5 to both sides. So that means my A is 12. Remember, if you're always questioning, if you're ever questioning your answer, you can go back and plug that back in to see if you can come up with the correct answer. That is the correct solution. On my next problem here, again, I'm trying to create 0. So the way I'm going to get rid of a minus 3, again, I'm working on the side with the variable, is I would add 3 to both sides. That does create my 0. And so I get a negative 8. I owe somebody $8. I have 3. I will still owe them 5. Next problem, I am trying to get rid of a negative 9.3, so I will put a positive 9.3 on both sides. So that means I created 0, and I have t by itself. I have the solution of 13.4. In my next problem, I'm working on the right-hand side because that's where my variable is. I will add 25 to both sides because that's what creates the 0, and I get n is equal to, I owe somebody $53, I have 25, but I'm still going to end up owing them another 28. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and pause and take a break for a second and come back to the second video.